All right, good morning and welcome once again to our studio live from Lagos. My name is Dakbo Banjo. Welcome to Crossfire. And today is Feedback Friday. I have Ishoma in the studio.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ishoma Aga Ine. Thank you.
All right, as usual, we will try as much as possible to do exactly what we normally do on the show. We'll bring you a lot of stories, and at the same time, we'll try and take time to just analyze them and let you get informed and know exactly what is happening. And today is Feedback Friday. We have a lot of stories that we're going to bring your way, and you just don't want to go nowhere. If you're watching us live right now, you're watching us on channel 259 on DSTV and our terrestrial platform channel 57. All right, welcome once again. My name is Dr. Banjo. Federal government dismisses ULC threats to go on strike. Now, the federal government has dismissed threats by the United Labour Congress to carry out an industrial action, saying the group is not a registered and recognized member of the Federation of Trade Unions. Now, Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, at a news briefing in Abuja, said ULC is yet to fulfill the requirement to qualify to be registered as a trade union. I know about TUC, I know about NLC. What is ULC again? That's what the story is talking about. We'll just be talking about that when we come back fully on analysis. Freed Chibok girls reunite with their families and will soon return to school. Good news, more than 100 Chibok girls freed from Boko Haram has been reunited with their families and will soon return to school. The young women were among 276 girls kidnapped by Islamist militants in 2014 and have spent months undergoing rehabilitation therapy. Now, Women Affairs Minister Aisha Alassane says they're now fully recovered. Now we can see that the Minister for Women Affairs is busy. All right, Ishoma will take more stories.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now in the wake of the tension ongoing in the southeastern part of Nigeria, the Plateau State government has placed the state capital Jos under an indefinite dusk to dawn curfew following tension between members of the Hausa and Igbo communities in the city. Now, the announcement was contained in a statement by the Director of Press and Public Affairs, Emmanuel Nali Samuel. In the statement, the governor, Simon Lalong, said the curfew, which has no expiration date, will cover the Greater Jos Bukuru metropolis. And to other stories, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will engage no fewer than 20,000 personnel for the conduct of November 18 governorship election in Anambra State. Resident Electoral Commissioner in the state, Dr. Nwachukwu Orji, disclosed this yesterday in Oka at the commencement of a two-day workshop for the Civil Society Situation Room. Dr. Nwachukwu said the workshop will inform civil societies on their roles during the elections.
All right, don't forget that yesterday we told you that technically Nigeria is out of recession. A lot of people feel that that's not the situation here. We also told you about the umpires in Abia State, and the dusk to dawn curfew has been extended till today. We'll bring you updates on that. And don't forget, we told you yesterday also that Lagos State interstate transport operators are to vacate Ikorodu Road. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, you'll be meeting our guest, and it's still Crossfire with Dakpo and Ishoma. We'll be right back after now. All right, good to be back, and thanks for staying with us. It's still Crossfire with Dakpo and Ishoma. And today is Feedback Friday, and thank God it's Friday. I know everybody out there trying to unwind and preparing for the weekend. It's a busy one for me. I don't know about you, but at the same time, let's just take time out to rest a little bit. Nigeria is so troubled on every side with myriads of concerns and issues. And my prayer and our prayer in Wazobia TV and particularly on Crossfire is that Nigeria will survive. Nigeria will survive. You know, in spite and despite, all that we're going through right now, I'm very sure that we are stronger at the end of the day. And our strength is going to be in our oneness, togetherness. Nobody is succeeding anywhere. Once the economy gets or bounces back, almost everybody will be like, yeah, this is the place to be. And that is the dream. That is my Nigerian dream. I don't know about you. And that's what we try to talk about on the show. we have a guest on the show, and since Ishoma doesn't want to take the glory to do, almost everything I've been throwing back, Ishoma, we have the honor to introduce our guest this morning.
Okay, so we are joined by a fantastic guest. He is a political analyst, and his name is Kingsley Wabogu. Thank you for joining us on the
Thank you for having
I
me.
almost added barrister. But
You almost. I was just going like, no comment.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Casey, good to have you
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah.
At least, she delightfully did that.
Yes, for once, yes.
We can fight, but not on air.
Okay, let's take it off air.
Okay, all right. Because it's Friday,
I'm the middleman here.
we try not to blow so hot.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crossfire all the time. It gets really very hot. But then, when we talk about Nigeria, there's no way at a point in time we just lose it. Just like government is losing it, vis-a-vis a lot of things happening, around us. But what is your Nigerian dream? What is happening? And what's your Nigerian dream?
My Nigerian dream is a country where, to a large extent, everyone is carried along. Everyone is part of it. Everyone feels a part of this entire fabric, and nobody feels left out. The reality, however, is that you cannot get everybody happy. That's the reality of it. Okay. As long as you run a democracy and people have the choice to go wherever they want to go with their choices, their decisions, and all that, freedom of speech and all
Casey,
that.
don't go there.
No, hold on. I'm going somewhere. As long as people have that and it's enshrined by the Constitution and all that, freedom of choice. Yes, that's what I was going to. Okay. As long as you have that, it's really going to be a shaky thing from that. There's not the concept of total peace and freedom is really up in the air for me. The only time you get, in fact, even in heaven, is because God runs a theocracy, doesn't run democracy. So if you don't like what he wants, you get out of heaven. But as long as you're earth and human beings have choices and they have to make their choices based on how they feel at every point in time, you may not have instant peace always. But what you can have, and I always push this, is have a situation where everybody's equally unhappy, not equally happy.
Okay.
You understand? To some extent that, okay, you don't have this, I don't have this. Ishoma doesn't take the glory, and that ball gives it to Kingsley, and that kind of thing. So he doesn't have this, I don't have this. And to a large extent, we say, okay, let's just, and we still have that overriding love for the center or for the country that we all represent. And I think that's easier to attain than to try and make everybody happy.
Do you think, anarchy is defined as a state, of chaos?
Yes.
Especially when there is law and people just deem fit not to follow the law, but they just chose to do whatever pleases them or whatever they like. Do you think that we are in a state of anarchy?
I don't think that we're in a state of anarchy yet. I'm going to have to reiterate the words of the Inspector General of Police, who said that there is no tension. It was laughable when I first heard it, but then to a large extent, yes, because in most of the regions where we have these pockets of disturbances, the police is still largely at work. The police hasn't been. It's not exactly the state of the Northeast where the police is totally overrun. The police has not been overrun. Police has not raised the white flag in surrender yet. So technically, we're still, in fact, not beyond technically, there's still, I don't think there's anarchy. Okay. But there are causes for worry, definite causes for worry, and this is something we have to deal with decisively.
Like Dr. said, anarchy is a state of chaos.
Yes.
And we look at the activities in the Southeast, I mean, particularly with respect to Abia State.
Yes.
Statements also have been flying around social media.
Yes.
A lot of persons are agitating, give these individuals a referendum so they can decide if they want to be part of Nigeria. But then there's another angle to it, which a lot of persons seem not to have spoken much about. Biafrans, or rather pro-Biafra, pro-Biafra, and then IPOB members have not on their own decided to speak with members of certain communities if they want to be part of the entity called Nigeria. We have seen statements coming from certain members of IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu saying, oh, Delta State, River State, Bayelsa State. Now, on one hand, they're accusing the federal government of Nigeria of not conducting a referendum for them to have Biafra according to their desires. But on their own part, they have not spoken with members of the other communities they are forcefully trying to include into the Biafran struggle. So in this case, don't you see IPOB on their own, they're not united. Exactly. on their own too, they're not united in purpose, they're not united intellectually to push for what they want.
The reality is that when you allow someone else tell your story, he's going to have the freedom to put all the seasoning he wants in it. And I think that's the situation here. One question I've always asked is, what is the Biafran ideology? I would have loved that to be defined in black and white, right?
I'm not sure Nnamdi Kanu asked that.
Good. No, good. Now, he hasn't asked that. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately because why his message is not exactly bad, his means of communication hasn't been great. In fact, it's really terrible. And I think that is one of the underlying pushes for the government, talking about hate speech all over. There is a way to go about these things. Yes, I know that Nigeria doesn't have a referendum built into its constitution, but there's still a consistent, intentional way of pushing your agenda without necessarily resorting to annexing a part of the country that you haven't even asked if they want to be part of you or not, right? Or looking at other parts of the country and calling them very colorful names. You know, there's a way to these things. A friend of mine started a hashtag this week, and he said there is a better way. And it stems from both sides.
But what better way can there be other than the legislative arm of government? And
Good.
so far, we have not heard anything.
Good.
Ishoma, a very big worry for me in the way we're going about this is the fact that, in one hand, a group of people or a set of people feels that we have a true representation in the legislative arm of government, you know, to be able to move us forward in this fight. If eventually, I mean, we have a region that is planning to secede, we can go about it and say, okay, let's give them the room. Haven't realized that we have people who is representing their interest in the legislative arm of government. But people are calling for a referendum saying, no, we don't have a true representation in the legislative.
So they don't believe in the National Assembly.
Can I be honest with you? That is a concern for me.
But hold on. And that stems on how ignorant some persons are.
Now, yes, you could say that and all that, but here's the reality, and this is one thing I always say about democracy. It's a contest of ideologies. It's always a contest of ideologies, with the majority carrying the day. It doesn't extinguish...
Which should be the majority of intellectuals.
No, hold on. It's not necessarily the intellectuals. It's not always... Ideal.
Yes.
There's ideal, and I'm just going to the structure of democracy. Democracy says Ishama wants to wear white and butter, yellow, as she called it. I want to wear this, and he wants to, that one wants to wear this. That's the reality of it. Now, if I get a lot more people in Lagos State who want to wear what I'm wearing, and they're in the majority, then I take the lead. It doesn't mean that you would not have your say. Right. So that's what democracy is. Now, if I sit here and say, why would you decide to wear white and yellow today? I shouldn't be offended that you decide to wear white and yellow. I should, however, be concerned when you decide that, oh, because Kingsley is wearing white and blue, then Kingsley is a fool, Kingsley is an idiot. No, that shouldn't be my narrative. Right.
Now, Kessie, Ishoma, we still don't have the right narrative anyway, as it has to do with how to go about this whole thing. Peradventure, because
we do.
The legislative arm of government came up and say we need to rebuild the northeast eastern part of Nigeria because of
what happened. Apparently,
because it's war ravaged. Hold on. Because it's war ravaged and the schools are destroyed, the police stations are not there.
It's looking at the houses are not there as a path to take.
Exactly, the houses are not there, and then suddenly somebody came and said, we have erosion too, we have flooding too, we have all of these things in the southeast.
Yes,
and we want a rebuilding too. Don't forget that the south, hold on, guys. We have in the north.
Yes,
there is already like not very pronounced or loud rebuilding of the south. You see, because we are cleaning the
overland. There's the NDDC, there's the Minister of Natural Affairs.
So something is happening for the north. Something is happening supposedly for the south.
Yes.
Now the southeast is coming up to say exactly to say now we need a rebuild too.
This is the thing.
That is the main, and because that bill was thrown out, now the southeast is agitating, saying that it's not, we don't have a true representation there.
But that's unfair.
But that's exactly
hold on. I think that's an error of generalization. Hold on. To say that, because that bill was thrown out, that's why the agitations ramped up to a whole new level. I just think that.
There's no impetus. You think he didn't put any impetus in that?
No. See, I can sit here, for instance, I can sit here I can sit here and specifically say these are all the constituent parts of what is pushing this to a large extent.
If it does not contribute to it, why do you think the legislative arm of government does not have a true representation to represent the referendum going for that, either for constitutional amendment?
Can I be honest with you? See, one thing we also have to say is, and this is why I think beyond all the calls for restructuring in Nigeria and everything, the biggest thing that we need to work on is how we throw up people who we elected into office, from party internal democracies up to processes in electoral or in the country, because it's very crucial. If I don't believe in the system, for instance, the Lagos State has in its local government elections, I mean, it was marked by voter apathy because people don't believe in it, right? And because they looked at, there were cases of large alleged cases of imposition of candidates and all that. So you look at it and say, so why should I be part of that? And then when that man goes there, that man says it represents me. Of course, there's going to be a disconnect between that and this.
Which ideally, every citizen should participate in the process.
Exactly, because if you participate in the process from the get-go, from joining a party, right, to
believing their
you understand, to sending your delegates to the party's convention, to selecting the candidate who will then go on to, if he eventually wins, yes.
So you are sure your interest is going to be
the biggest disconnect. The biggest issue is there's a disconnect. There is no buy-in from the man at the bottom of the pyramid to the man who is representing him at the top of the pyramid. That is the issue. That's why the man out there can say, "Oh, that man is just eating all the money. He's not representing me."
Okay.
That's the issue. Now, can we say because the baby has messed up the bathwater, we should throw out the baby on the bathwater? No. I believe that as fractured as that system is, it's still a system. So what do we do? Do we just throw them out away and say, oh, no, they don't represent us, so they don't, everything is, no. As bad as it is, maybe by our error or their error, they are there representing us. So what do we do? Get involved with them. This is why I believe that the issue and the tension in the South is you cannot separate the silence or the inactivity of the Southeastern leaders at different levels. In order to quell this.
Now another dimension to this. Another dimension to this. Do you think it is legitimate for any organization to come up?
Yes. Any organization.
At all. Examples would be the Masobs of this world.
Any organization,
at all.
Yes.
And you are disturbing the peace of a nation, a country. Maybe from one geopolitical zone that you represent, that's where you're coming from. My concern is that if we have the situation we have in the southeast of Nigeria today, you may have all the good reason to want to agitate.
But you don't have to disturb the peace.
Exactly.
I said that earlier.
And so we have what we have in the southeast today. We have instances where in Ariera, in Abia State, where a police officer...
excesses.
Exactly.
Massive excesses.
And then we have similar cases that we have recorded in Imo State, we have in Anambra State. Exactly. And you see, the more we allow this to continue, I think we probably may lose it. Do you now think?
Yes.
I just want you to look at it holistically. Whatever they are doing, is it right in itself? Do you now think that the federal government is overreacting? You see, because the moment government responded to what is happening there, it's becoming like a major
so I think your first question, the answer to that is it okay for Dakpo to be wearing silver? Right? Because it's Dakpo's choice. Right? It's your choice to have a tablet instead of a typical screen in your presenting platform. It's your choice to have this setup and this entire beautiful set. It's about choice, as long as it's within the rules. And the rules say, and the rules say that you have freedom of choice.
Okay, but
But it does not give you.
Freedom is not absolute.
Exactly. I said that earlier. That's why I said freedom is not. It's relative. It's relative. Exactly. Where my rights end is where yours begin.
Exactly.
I completely agree with that. So when I look at, I've always said that what they're pushing for really, I can't sit down and say, how dare you push for that? No, that shouldn't be my approach.
So
my approach, listen, it is about exactly. You cannot be violent about this. You can't be part of a union and then say you are going to forcefully secede.
I am saying that violence or no violence. Let's even assume.
No, you are saying that they have no.
Right. Are you saying it is right?
You are saying that they cannot have a choice.
No. Are you saying?
If I understand you clearly,
Casey,
you're saying that they cannot have a choice.
No, they can.
Exactly.
Are you saying,
So,
okay,
and
hold on.
they can have a choice.
Anybody can.
Anybody
Within
can.
the context of law.
Of a democracy.
Exactly. Anybody can. But
Yes.
this is my direct question to you.
Yes.
This is crossfire.
Yes.
Answer me very truthfully.
Yeah, okay,
sincerely,
okay.
honestly.
Okay.
Do you think
Yes.
without this whole agitation being violent characterized,
Yes.
do you think it is even right in itself? Is that what you're saying? By the context of choice?
Yes. I
You are
think
saying
it's
that
right.
they can, I mean...
I think it's right.
They can
It's right.
push to
I think,
succeed, if I understand
listen,
it
I
clearly.
think it's right.
Okay.
It's right not because I support it, but I think it's right because as long as humans exist on earth, they will always make choices.
Okay.
Even God Almighty says, I give to you life and death. Advises you to choose life. It doesn't say you must choose life. Right? And so, and somebody once said that, and I hate to sound like a pastor here, but someone once said that you would go to hell not because you committed sins, but because, well, you didn't accept God's Son, and all of that depends on your Christian faith and all that. It's about choices. Human beings are wired to have choice. It's like saying you go back to the Garden of Eden, and then you created that tree, and you showed Adam the tree, told him the impact of the trees, and took away choice. God didn't do that.
You still left them with a choice.
Exactly. So people will always, and unfortunately, based on their level of exposure and intellect, they will make a choice. It may not be the best of choices.
No, you have said to things.
Now,
no,
it may not be the best of choices.
You have
The
said
key now is, now based on the choice they have made, what can I do to remedy it? Can I just, oh, how dare you make that choice? I'm going to destroy you for making that choice. Or am I going to give you an alternative? So am I going to contest your choice with a better ideology?
So the second angle...
I think that's
So, okay, the second
and that's why I would say
Yeah.
that you don't go into an ideological fight with the
So
ground.
indirectly, are you saying now the government is right, the federal government is right in how it has responded to the threats?
Not completely. They were mistakes. They were drop balls. They were
how-
drop
how
balls.
do
Here's
you
why.
think
Here's
they should
why.
respond?
Here's why.
Let him talk
Here's
about
why.
it.
This is a guy. This is a guy who. I mean, not what Ralph Wazobia has been here, and if he was even spun up from Ralph Wazobia, and then you have Nnamdi Kanu, and then this guy is an attention seeker. Do not give him attention.
In your opinion?
That's what he is.
Okay.
He's an attention seeker. He needs attention. He needs people, and he's selling.
He seems to be getting it.
And of course, he's getting it. Whether it's not something I like, but it is what it is. You can always push for restructuring, for God's sake. You can always push for restructuring and push for a better.
Is sponsored by political it has a political
If you had asked me this question yesterday, I was going to say no.
Okay.
But sitting back today and going by what I know between yesterday and today, I would say yes. Here's why. Because somebody said, well, all of those paraphernalia they wear, somebody is buying all of that. So definitely someone's paying for it.
No, another thing.
You understand?
Another thing.
So the reality is, and I think this is where you're going to. Let me preempt you. The reality is that people will always aggregate behind a cause for different reasons. We've seen that with the party.
No, you have not quite answered our question.
Hold on.
Is the federal government right in the means and measures it has taken? So how do you think? How else do you think?
Not absolutely. It's
the
not
government
absolutely.
should have responded?
I think that first of all, Nnamdi Kanu coming into the country and seeking to be arrested, you just, as Remo Okri put it, you turned Bright Chiweze into a Michael Jackson. He wanted to be arrested. He wanted to get in front of the TV screens, and you gave him that. You shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
Not because then.
I seem to agree with you.
This is
where I share that opinion.
This is where you also have to go with the intelligence committee, intelligence gathering and all that.
Yes, okay.
There are other ways to shut him down, right? Take down his radio station, continuously shut him down. Then counter his ideological drive with yours.
National orientation.
The national orientation is moving too far.
Okay.
Let's come down to the people on the grassroots, because he's selling it to the man in Aba that once I get Biafra, it's going to be heaven. Newsflash, it's not going to be heaven.
It's going to be maybe likely more hellish.
But people always list towards the ideal, but there is the reality.
Yeah.
Right? We had that with the present party in leadership now, when they were in opposition. Now they are in there's the reality.
Okay,
I think there's a saying, they say you campaign in pros and you govern in
Now
you understand? So there's the reality.
Okay,
now, it's not always. Yes.
You hit that.
Yes.
Ishoma and I still want your thought
Yes.
on what government did and didn't do or should have done and did not do.
And what can
they are doing now.
What can they do now?
What can they? Let's start with what they didn't do. What they did was picking him up, which I don't think was exactly great. They could have just shut him down quietly.
For an offense of treason.
You see, it's an alleged offense. Remember the law system we run, and you almost call me barrister on the show. But the reality is, he hasn't been convicted
yet. But we can look at the laws,
and consistently hold on,
until the courts have a say.
The courts have a say. The courts are the ones who, there's a court of public opinion, a court of law. Court of law is the one that says this guy is guilty. Right? And as he stands now, according to the courts of Nigeria, he hasn't committed an offense.
You see, because
now it's going by the rule of law.
Listen, but I can also look and say
I do not
he has breached all of his bail conditions.
That's that one day. That one. This is why. This was okay. That one day. I mean, that I said something when he was going to be getting bail. I said, first of all, his bail conditions are draconian. How do you sign up to that? But then he signed up. He signed up to it. So and now you're flouting it up per second billing. Sorry, bro. It doesn't work that way. If you sign up to the bail conditions, you stick to them. It's as simple as that. Now, here's also where I think that the federal government also dropped the ball. There's something they did with the South-South. Still in this administration. We started Operation Crocodile Smile. Do you guess what? Guess what? After the initial drama, and those guys were not burning police stations. They were in creeks with guns. We have not seen IPOB with guns.
Well, so far, the federal security intelligence has it that they have been shipping.
Hold on. There is, hold on. Wait now. No, let's not even go how they succeeded. Because, I mean, when you tell me they have been shipping and they're coming to the port, hold on, and they're coming to the ports and they're coming to containers and all that, and you can, in today's 2017 world, I'm sorry.
We don't have a functional scanner.
This week, some weapons were intercepted and they were consumed.
I'm sorry, we are always intercepting weapons, and somehow we don't ever prosecute anybody. No, see, a container just doesn't show up on your port.
It doesn't just,
It's coming from somewhere.
There's an originating country.
Which is true.
You know,
and there's from M1 that would have been filled anyway. Those ones are
let's not go too far. Let's not go too far. Let's not that. But the thing is, if I go to compare IPOB with the militants in the Niger Delta, those guys are not wearing flag and saying no. They are carrying guns, proper guns. And they are dropping it in the air. And so we had Operation Crocodile Smile and little of that. And then guess what this government did was very brilliant. They sent the vice president in there as the acting president. He went through community by community. He spoke the things they wanted to hear. Okay. You understand? And that's why I said you don't go into an ideological war with a gun.
Don't forget that they reverted back to amnesty. They started paying. That was the very, that was the bane of the agitation in the South when they came in.
But beyond that, there were some things that he also said which were very crucial. For instance, modular refineries.
Okay, modular refineries.
Very brilliant.
Okay, hold on that thought. We'll go on a short break. KC is still in the studio with us and is still crossfire with Dakwani Shoma. We'll be right back after now. All right, we're back, and it's still Crossfire with Dakpo and Ishoma. We have Kingsley in the studio with us. He's a political analyst, and he's a social commentator, and he's just doing his thing. And like I told us, we're just sticking it, cool and cool.
Cool is inverted commas.
But he claims to be feeling hot, and we are not blowing out today, Ishoma.
Not at all. I mean, our viewers can testify.
All right.
Now, the makeup's not off yet.
Now, we're talking about the intervention of the vice president.
Yes, in his
acting capacity.
Yes.
Engaging in the South-South and all of that. And you were talking about those things that...
I was just going to say that he went into those regions, right? Yes, maybe they're going to clean up, has taken off or hasn't taken off another, but it was symbolic because governance is really much about symbolism. That's what governance is. Okay. It's about posturing. So when the people see an armored tank on their street in a region that has been largely rated peaceful, vis-a-vis, or second only to the southwest, they start to ask, hello. So what you indirectly do with that move is that you win someone who's on the farthest left more supporters. You understand what I'm saying? I happened to travel to the east a bit. From the minute you cross the River Niger Bridge, this was before Operation Python Dance. Christmas, anything, cross the River Niger Bridge, the total number of checkpoints from the River Niger Bridge down into the southeast.
Police checkpoints.
Army checkpoints, police. You start to wonder what's going on here. If you're traveling from Lagos by road, the total number of checkpoints between Lagos and the River Niger Bridge is not as much as the one from the bridge, that just going through Anambra State. And then you start to ask, what's going on here? This is not the northeast. What is going on here?
Well,
so
what it does is, that's what I'm saying. Based on intelligence,
the thing is, what happens is symbolism. It starts to sell. I said governance is about symbolism. It starts to sell to the people. Okay, they don't like us. I have to be candid to this administration. You have a lot more people, right, in the southeast who are neutral, who really don't want all of this.
That is true.
Very candid with you. There are a lot more people who don't want all of this drama.
That's true.
But what happens is that because they are sitting on the ideological fence, once they see all of that symbolism, tacitly or some other way, they start to list, or as using a sheep's term now, or they start to bend towards his ideology and tell you, okay, and that's why even with IPOB, you have IPOB, but you also have the Lower Niger Congress, which is a much more sound, intellectual, packaged, say, referendum pushing, or...
You still have a lot.
You understand?
You still have the Governors Forum, you still have the Indigo.
You understand what I'm saying? There are a lot more. So it's almost like if you put all of this on a spectrum, you have Nnamdi Kanu's led IPOB on the farthest end of the spectrum, and then you start to come in towards the middle, and the middle will be restructuring. And in between all of that, you have different ideologies. Yeah. So what I thought the government would have done will come from is, the government hasn't specifically said that it's against restructuring. But it's, I talk about symbolism. When your party starts to say, okay, economic restructuring, and people get the feeling like, didn't you campaign with this?
What's actually your position on restructuring?
I think it's something that's long overdue.
Okay.
It's long overdue. Not necessarily because it will solve all our problems. I'm going to be very candid, it will not solve all our problems. It wouldn't.
Do you want to give more powers?
You
want to give more powers to governors who cannot even account?
Do you know why?
For
that's why I said,
vote?
good. Last time I was here with Ishama, I mentioned that.
Yeah.
I said, see, us as a people need to hold our leaders, direct leaders, accountable, from the local government chairman to the state.
But this is where there is a problem.
I think that, but for the fear that the governors will get worse, shouldn't mean that we shouldn't look at the system and rejig it for better efficiency, right? And that's the real issue we have here, because what we have is everything is coming to the center,
yes,
right? And the center now is bound between some rules of, okay, federal character principle. Okay, so you want to do something just as basic as citing a meal.
But this is where we
hold on. You have to do something basic as meal that we need to do for the country. You say, okay, you have to put it in this region.
Kingsley,
because
there is nothing bad
let's not do it about
restructuring. There is absolutely nothing bad about restructuring.
Yes.
If you look at it, but the problem I have had is, until recently, where the Southwest leaders, I really loved, the brilliance in how they were able to itemize it. Okay, should we talk the part of regionalization? Should we retain the state structure?
Yes.
But each state should have their own laws.
Yes.
They should have their own system, just like you have in the United States.
Yes.
Before that, we never had. People were just talking about restructuring in the open.
Already, in the judiciary.
So in the
judiciary, I think the restructuring is already done. States are having
before I got there.
Now you're having the Southwest think deeper. They're taxing themselves intellectually. Now, in the wake of all of what's happening in the Southeast, we have not had much in terms of the leaders traditional leaders, Southeastern leaders. They have a lot of resourceful, bright heads there.
Oh, they do.
Why are they not as much coming now to look, okay, if peradventure Biafra doesn't work, what is the next step? Now, how can they help be well-positioned for the Southeast to be better developed through restructuring?
I don't even think it's a if Biafra doesn't work thing. I think it's a whether we get it or not, we have to develop our area.
Which is true.
I am saying if this fight in person, I'm just saying this in person. I am saying that if this fight is an Igbo president in 2019, don't you think it would have been a better fight for the Southeast?
To be candid with you, let's be honest here, because I think we're a bit hung up on positions. We're hung up on positions and ethnicity.
Oh, okay.
You understand? Yeah. Hold on. I think we're hung up because it's very worrying, that brand of politics, because what happens is that when my person is now the president, then I expect that my person will use Nigeria's money to develop my place.
And it always leads into
vis-a-vis him
disappointment.
developing the country, who is the president.
Now, I have,
You understand where I'm coming from? So, and that's why I think that ideology.
I have a direct question for you.
Region can spring.
Now, there's an antecedent. There's already an antecedent. Do you think that the northern leaders in time past actually did some things for the north, you know, to favor them today, as it were?
Yeah, the reality is a very good question. I'll say yes. I'll say yes. You can't run that. You can't run away from that.
Exactly,
I'll say yes.
Exactly.
And then in a country that is largely divided, not divided like in anger, but because of its distinct, very formed societies that were now amalgamated by a Lord Lugard and his wife, who woke up one morning and in Nigeria came up with the name. So we have distinct identities, which is not really a bad thing.
Okay.
But then you have to design a system that appeals to those identities and allows everybody to flourish in their own way. That's the whole essence of restructuring. So you can't now bring it to the center and expect the center to understand what Ishama wants to have for dinner. And in the same kitchen, prepare the same breakfast for Dakbo and Kingsley's lunch and every other person's, snacks and all that in between. Let every region, or every state, as we now have states, because I don't think we should go back to region. I don't think we're going to have that drama where states are going to ask ourselves, which state am I going to be mentioned?
No. But regionalization will still follow the geopolitical zone.
It will. No debate. But I think that we could go straight with states, right? Devolve more powers to the states.
Where
even
some
if devolution.
still clamoring for more state creation. I mean, that's another.
Can I be honest with state creation? Remember what I said earlier? I said something earlier. Democracy is always about choices. Right? And because there are a plethora...
Within the ambience of the law.
Hold on. Because there are a plethora of choices does not mean you should dive on every one.
Okay.
You cannot satisfy... I said that at the top of the show. You cannot satisfy everybody. That's the reality of it. Even, and I go back to God again. Even as God exists, some people still don't like the fact that some people call themselves atheists because they don't believe God exists. If you exist in this world, why will you allow some diseases like cancer and all that exist? You see where I'm coming from? So, as long as choice exists, people will always be open to deciding what they want, right? Which is why you almost must leave it, localize it, even in they say in dispute resolution and all that. Yeah. Try to keep it as local as possible. Don't let it expand.
No, I need to ask this,
I want
gentlemen.
to even, yes, maybe you should go for your question, but really and truly, there's a dimension to our conversation, so that I can take your last thought on the situation in the Southeast, and then we can use the rest of the time to actually discuss something, something else.
Okay, now, look at the problems in Nigeria. It's all stemmed one way in the issue of ethnicity.
Yes.
We have not quite found a way to dealing with our ethnicity issues, wherein this ethnic group wants to be seen as more superior, where the other ethnic groups aside Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba feel totally marginalized. Good. So we've not quite found a way to deal with it. And you look at the problem, which existed in Rwanda between the Hutus and the Tutsis, ethnicity.
Yes.
Now, in addressing Nigeria's issue, because that is one of the bane of contention now with the Southeast and IPOP drama, is how can we kill the permanence of ethnicity and push for a more united front, a more united Nigeria? Now, I recall for a while now there has been the argument and debate, scrap state of origin, scrap ethnicity and put state of residence. Yeah. Now, if the government decides to look at it as a way of addressing these issues, how feasible? Do you think it's feasible?
To go for state of residence over state of origin as a way of solving our ethnicity?
Maybe.
Can I be honest with you? Because we have such distinct tribes and distinct ethnic tribes, groups in Nigeria, before we were now made into a country, right? It's going to be hard to subsume everybody into one, to be very candid.
Why can't it?
Now, and it's not something that will happen in 10, 20, 40,
but we
50
start
years.
somewhere.
No, good. Hold on.
That's we put country first.
Exactly.
I am a Nigerian.
Thank you.
But I'm from Florida.
Hold on.
I am a Nigerian. I'm from California.
No issues. I have no issues. But then it's easy to look at that ideal without asking what they did to get to that ideal.
Oh, the first
what did they? No, before, after the wars. Hold on. And after the wars and all that, intellectual, and what did they then do? And that is why the call for restructuring is just so loud now. Because I cannot expect someone to sit in Abuja you know, and
dictate.
understand what it is for me to be going through in Keja GRA, for instance, or in Lekki. I expect.
But this government
I'm just saying.
No, not like before. Where somebody sits in Abuja, something happens in Lekki and you don't know.
That's why
you have a more reactive. Okay, yeah, it's not out of place. A more reactive, as it were. Maybe proactive and reactive is one, you know, opposites and the other.
Yes.
But the truth is that it has happened in Benue. There's a flooding issue. We are there. It's happening in.
We're there. How many hours late? Of course, days late. But let's not even go into that. Trust me, let's not go into Benue. Benue wasn't a nice response at all. It wasn't nice. Although you can't
Okay, we
separate.
have a call.
We have a call.
If you do not mind, please. Hello, Sam. We have Sam from Lagos.
Hello, Sam.
Yeah, hello. Please, I just wanted to make an observation. You know, I just want to point out something. You know, you people are on national TV, and there are some certain claims that when you make on national TV, you should be worried about the information you're passing to the public.
Okay.
How can one of the anchors be saying that the indigenous people of Biafra are behind the armed importation that was intercepted? Does she have the evidence to prove that?
She never said that.
That was not said. What was said was, what was said, Sam?
Should be made on air.
Okay, Sam.
On national television.
No, that was not said.
You should have intellectual depth when you're discussing issues like this on international.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. But what was said was, looking at, based on what the security agency said during this week, based on the arm importation, it could be, but that was not said, based on what you're saying. You got that all wrong, Sam.
That wasn't said.
You got that all wrong.
And as a matter of fact,
that's why I said it's always about ideology. People are, I said there are people in the center. People are hurting.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's very
exactly.
And so it's sensitive. So and sometimes people can also suffer mind blocks. And I'm not saying that's the situation there in the last caller, but people can suffer mind blocks and hear what they want to hear.
Now,
so it does happen.
You know, that's why I want a balance, you know, to our conversation.
Yes.
So that we don't have, you know, what we just got now. And that's why I'm saying, you know, and that's why the question is really very simple. Our discussion on the show is really very simple. We are saying there is a problem in this family. And I'm representing that family, you know, as the Southeast. And I'm saying that, okay, you have reached out to the king in that neighborhood. And the king is saying, okay, it's enough that you have a problem in your family, but the problem seems to be disturbing the whole community. And now the king is saying, you know, in my powers, I am going to say, your family do not have the capacity to disturb the entire community. You have to probably ensure that this problem is addressed and you limit it to your family while we look for a solution to your problem.
Okay.
What am I trying to say? I'm simply saying...
I like your analogy. It's very beautiful. But the only catch
but we
is...
have Paul's call.
Okay,
let's take Paul's call. Hello, good morning, Paul.
Yeah, good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you today?
Yeah, please, Nigeria is not the only country that has fought a civil war.
All right.
The Americans, they had their and other countries.
Sure.
But after the war, there was integration of every man and woman, irrespective of color, language, race, religion.
True.
Now, if the 3 R's that was proposed by Gowon after the war was carried out, there wouldn't be Nnamdi Kanu today and IFO. The problem we are having is fundamental. They hate policy. They hate governance. There is a change of leadership in NNPC.
Okay.
A whole region that had 3 states that produce oil, even if it's 1%, but it is adding to the GDP. They had no representation in that appointment. 2, railway, that's supposed to be a modern channel of transportation, which we are seeing in other parts of the world. The Southeast was excluded. Then are you telling me that if you are from the Southeast and you see that your fathers are weak, they could not stand up to talk and you have age of maturity, any Nigerian that can vote has the right to say whatever he wants. So the system of governance and policy in Nigeria made Nnamdi Kanu.
Good.
And that is what is going to cause much problem. I expected this government. In fact, I love the Vice President's actions, what he did in the South. There should be a meeting. Nnamdi Kanu is not a spirit. What is wrong in taxing Nnamdi Kanu by the Nigerian government? We heard what you said. We do not agree with you in some things you said, but come, let us sit down and talk.
Okay, Paul.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul, for that.
Point made.
You know the cool part, I was just going to point out what Paul said.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite interesting that...
Because of time, just...
Yeah, it's quite interesting that the South-South, I think, is a much more dicier issue than the South-East. Because in the South-South, there's no figurehead to deal with.
No.
I mean,
the agitations are different.
Hold on.
They are fighting for their land.
Hold on. Here's what I'm going to do. There's no
this.
figurehead to sit down and have a conversation with, whereby you can now turn him, because I suggested
all the
once.
various groups
But
that
in
are
the
there.
Southeast, there is a figurehead who, if you sit down and have a conversation with this person, maybe to a large extent, turn him as a double agent. They do that in movies a lot. You turn him as a double agent, and then he speaks to his people and he calms everything down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a lot more easier to do that.
You know, we were going to...
Than the South-South, they're already with guns. Because it's really surprising how fast we went from Operation Crocodile Smile to having sound conversation with South-South, right? How fast that happened. Is it because, well, the oil is there and we needed that money?
Could it be that such plans are also underway by the federal government?
Could it be? That's what I'm saying.
So
And,
that's
you know,
another
it's
angle.
interesting that Operation Python Dance supposed to have started today. So I'm starting to ask, what was going on all week? Today is the official date
Now,
to start.
I'm just going
what
to
was
ask
going on all week? How come?
we have about 30 seconds to go.
30 seconds,
You may
wow.
not, you may not be able to analyze this.
Yes.
But it's going to form the basis of our conversation, you know, from next week.
Yeah.
Do you think the southeast of Nigeria is marginalized?
Very
In
good
One word.
question. In one word,
In your opinion?
I'll say to some extent, yes. But I will also say, that, no, hold on, every other region has its own marginalization.
Exactly.
Issues too.
So it's
Very
not just an exclusive, only about Southeast is glaring. I mean, do the second Nigeria bridge, dredge the ports in that area.
All
you
right.
understand? Do the roads.
Okay.
It's not rocket
All right,
science.
thanks. Okay, thanks so very much to our guests on the show, Kingsley.
Thank you for having me.
For being here. And to a very
you.
large extent, we will be discussing about this. If really and truly, I mean, this platform is created to have a very robust, balanced conversation to make sure that we pass the right information out.
Exactly.
Apologies to anybody who probably have a misunderstanding of our representation here.
Exactly.
This show is not tilting to one region or the other.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.